All right, welcome everyone once again to another installment of Love and Live. Woo! Yes, this is Aaron here, coming to you live from Georgia.
Oh, and I'm Chelsea. Hey guys, welcome back. This is just me being silly. We are literally drinking boba. It's Juneteenth, and we are just enjoying the evening.
I can't get the the tea out of the cup. No, out of the cup because there's boba blocking the straw, and I don't want to make a noise that's so loud that it's uncomfortable for the listeners. So I'm just gonna put this down. How are y'all doing?
Yay! All right. Well, welcome back, you guys. We are so glad that you are still listening to us talk about our stories, and we hope that you guys are enjoying it. Again, we always welcome feedback. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yes. Again, I think we said it last time too, but comments really make the community feel more alive and connected. We can share more in addition to what we've talked about. We can hear your stories and field your questions and make it a place where we can really be open and transparent and discuss things that maybe aren't talked about. And we also appreciate when you all give us ideas for future content too. We love being able to speak to the things that you're all thinking about and the things that you want to hear more about from us as a young, recently blessed couple.
Yay. All right, so this week we have a second installment about the topic of family. There was a matter that was deep in Aaron's heart, and so we're going to take this opportunity to share with you how our families and interacting with them has impacted our lives. So, tell us, what has changed for you since you've met my family?
Oh, goodness. That is a big question. I mean, it's hard to say because it's not necessarily that meeting your family has been the catalyst for the change, but it's in a sense been a reinforcement of other changes that I've made since we've gotten married. I've told you already, Chelsea, I've changed a lot in these past, since, I guess, November. So since November is 7 months from now? And these 8 months. 8 months. In these 8 months, I have changed dramatically as a person. I mean, for the better, especially. And I think that not just being connected to you, but seeing where you come from, getting to know your family and interacting with them has really opened my eyes and my mind to, what it means to be family, what it means to be connected. Because my family, I think I talked about it in the last episode, I don't talk to my siblings that often, aside from my sister. I don't talk to my brothers that often, but when we talk, we pick up as though no time had passed, So that was kind of like my standard. I don't really reach out that often, but I always know that my family's welcoming and we're always, there. We're going to be there to support each other. We'll pray for each other. And we genuinely care about one another. It's not like just trying to find out information so that we know what's going on in each other's lives. It's really sincere. So that was my idea of family before, right? But your family is so close. I think you mentioned it too for our listeners, babe. But there are 5 kids in the family. Okay, Chelsea's the oldest, and then her parents are her mom and dad, and every Sunday, all the children and mom and dad come together to have family dinner every Sunday by choice, and that's not something I've seen very often. It's one thing when you're all kind of younger before you go off to college and you live in the same house, and then you have dinner together. That's just kind of a given in many cases. But when everyone has graduated from school, everyone is living their own lives, is busy with their own plans, is pursuing their own dreams and goals, to still every Sunday look forward to meeting up and having dinner together, spending time together, sharing each other's worries and concerns, helping each other through life's problems. it's a level of connectedness that I didn't see in my family. Like, I felt it, you know, I feel that. Like, if my sister or my brothers ask me, like, hey, can you look over my resume? Or, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, can you share a story about a time when you were in Japan and this and that? Then I would totally do it, like, no questions asked. Like, yeah, I'm here, I'm there for you. But, like, it's not just the feeling of that, but, like, I see it every week, you know, and that was a really amazing sight. It was something for me. It's so cool because, like, that's like in my mind, that's like the dream family, right? Like, oh wow, they're so close and like they're always connected and they're like they all have their. I mean, I'm telling y'all. Okay, I'm gonna tell all your listeners. Okay, Chelsea's siblings, they're all so different. They're all so different. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We have the educator, Chelsea. We have a youngest brother who's like financially, like he's into finance and he's very knowledgeable about that. We got Cam. Some of you know Cam, but he's in tech and knows about the IT and that kind of stuff. And we have her other brother who's into writing and storytelling and very expressive, artistic. And then I don't know what Kristen's specialty is, but she's like a whole. She's what? I don't know if sales is necessarily her specialty.
It really, yeah. She has a strength and a passion and acting.
Okay.
She really has a gift for communication. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But they're all so different. Like it's so clear. Like when you hear that each person is the king of their individuality, like you can see it in her siblings. You can see it in that family. And it's so cool, not only when you see that, but when you see all of those different people come together and have a harmonious, joyful time together every weekend. It's so cool. Like for me, it's so cool. And there's an abundance of love and respect and, you know, mutual support in it. And like, it's something that I feel in my family, but I don't see it in the same way. Or to the same frequency, the same level of frequency. And that alone was like a really, it was a wake-up call for me because I always valued my family. I always thought family is important, but I hadn't given the same time and energy into staying that connected, right? And I think that's something that I really realized I wanted to do better, wanted to do more. After seeing how your family interacts. So.
My heart's so warm. Yeah, I told you guys I have a very unique family, and I am very, very blessed and very happy to be in that tribe. So it's very refreshing to hear your account of how it's influenced you and your thoughts and ideals, you know. Interesting that you talk about kings of individuality and coming together and like creating that harmony. I know we're talking about family, and of course there is like the blood level family, but I think, you know, as you were talking, I kind of felt this inspiration about our spiritual family as well. And, you know, really when you create the atmosphere and you develop those relationships with the people who have chosen to belong to this history, who follow this word, there can be that kind of love and that kind of energy within like our church homes. And I feel like this is something that is really important for us as Providence people to really think about, especially during this time. Where, you know, there's a lot of different things going on, and just like with myself and my siblings, you know, we all have different things going on in our lives. Some of us are leaving our jobs, transitioning into different fields. You know, for Aaron and myself, we're getting ready to move. But even through all of those different things that we're going through, we still make the time and the effort to come together and to enjoy each other's company. And I think this is something that, you know, I know Pastor Sky has talked about many times in his podcast, but, you know, the work that we have to do as brides is to have that harmony with one another. That's a message that we've heard abundantly, and is one of the directions for this year as well in, our efforts to go until the end. How do you do that? And it's not a solo race that we run. We're all here together, and we should have this community. We should be people who make peace with each other and create that kind of setting that people want to be a part of. Like, I love being with my family, so I enjoy. It's not like a chore for me, or like, oh, come on, babe, we gotta go see my parents. It's like, all right, we're getting ready for dinner, and so we're gonna go. And so I think, just food for thought, something that came to mind as you were speaking. And I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Very true. Very true. I mean, that's such a good point, because when the relationship is harmonious, and when you feel that love and respect in like a familial way, right? That's when you want to be there. And I think that's such a good point, because that's the kind of atmosphere we want to make at church. That's the kind of atmosphere we want to make with our brothers and sisters in this history, right? If you felt that family-like love being at church, interacting with your head leader or other church members or department leaders or whatever it is, wouldn't you want to be there? Wouldn't you want to spend time together? You wouldn't say, oh, I guess service ended and we usually go out to eat. I guess we'll have to go out to eat again with him. It wouldn't be like that. You'd say, yeah, I want to catch up. I want to see how or hear how their week has been. I want to share about what I'm going through. And, I want to bounce ideas off of one another and just spend that time together. It's fun. And I have that relationship with some people in this history too. And it's so enjoyable to be with them, to spend time with them. Shout out to Mason and Martin. Really, that's just what it is. When you have that sort of relationship, it makes that time, and even the thought of investing that time, so joy-giving, fulfilling. And so, I think that is something that we can all think about and strive for, of course, in our relationships. Even outside of our family, like in church. So.
Yeah. Last week's message, got to look for the positives in others. It kind of reverberates in my mind now. There was a thought tickling in my mind. Don't let it go. Don't let it go.
Don't let it go. Don't let it go.
Oh my gosh, right? No, what was it? It was something about, the value of making those connections, making those relationships, I think also really can testify well for this history with our physical families as well. Now, caveat, right? Granted, I know everybody's situation is unique, and I, as an individual, respect everyone's decision to follow the inspiration that they have for their unique position. For me, I know there was a period of time, where there was some kind of raised eyebrows, like some strangeness and even awkwardness when I kind of first came to this history. And there's this like kind of, I don't want to say push, but there is some kind of sensation that like your family is less important. Like, you should spend more time just running for the church and just doing these things. I don't know if everybody's felt that. I know for myself personally, there was definitely this feeling of, what do I prioritize and where do I spend my time? And I know that it did kind of cause some questions in my family. So I will say, what you see now is definitely after a period of time of me really coming to realize that in my case, right, putting my family in a place of value and being connected with them was the port that I was able to use to really communicate and convey the word to them. It wasn't to break things off and, just let them see how I live my life. It's like your life is a testimony, but these times when we sit down to eat together, when the opportunity comes up naturally in conversation, I will naturally share the word. Oh yeah, what you just said made me think of today's message. We talked about this and this and this. and I'll summarize it for them. I'll break it down into digestible pieces that they can really, appreciate and they can also respond to with their own experiences. But to me, like, there's so much value in that. And Pastor Scott actually talked about it not too long ago, maybe a week or two ago. And I was like, yes, like in the car, because I was like, I just really appreciated it being said, coming from a position of, in a sense, leadership, right? But it's like, there are people that you're going to meet for an instant in your life. And those are people that, you just kind of have to pour your all into it and just, okay, it's do or die, and I'll never see them after we walk out of this cafe again. But with your family, right, that's long game, long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. And they do not need to be preached at. They do not need to feel like your only objective in spending time with them is to preach at them, to tell them something, to teach them something. Mm-hmm. They're your family. Like, my parents raised me, so for me to come back and be like, let's all sit down in the living room and do Bible study together. I'm telling you, I did it was all in with a good heart. But I look back now and I'm like, I wish I had somebody to kind of mentor me better in that area. I think I really just came to realize on my own that method was not like appropriate for the circumstance. And they receive so much more from me and, appreciate so much more. And even, with our relationship, very quick. Aaron and I literally have not even known each other for a year, and we are married, and he comes over for family dinner every Sunday. And I think even for that to be palatable for them really comes from the background of me setting that foundation of just spending time with my family, letting them know what's going on in my life and what I'm doing, and still seeking counsel from them. I think sometimes we think that we know everything because we have the word, and so I'm going to use the inspiration from the message, and I don't need your help. Man, no. I go sit in front of my parents like all the time, and I'm like, okay, so I'm in this situation. What do you guys think? Because of course I'm going to get inspiration and realizations. I'm going to have dreams. But my parents have physical, concrete experience, and they know things that it's not possible for me to know. And, Sussum talks about this too. It's like, if you don't know how to do something, learn from someone who does know. Mm-hmm. And, we can't just make things up and go as we wish, because that's how accidents happen, mistakes happen, and we end up committing this conflict out of ignorance. So I guess all of this is a really broad way of saying that day-to-day relationship that you maintain with your family goes a long way in your testimony, your ability to share the word, and when you are making decisions like going through the blessing and bringing back somebody as your spouse, like, I don't imagine it would have gone the same way if I had spent all of my time in Providence, like, kind of estranged from my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I think I, in my heart, said amen like 20 times as we were talking. I don't want to be like, amen, amen, as you were going. But that's so good. Because even for me, too, like, that I really wanted to evangelize my family. I mean, that's not just past tense, present progressive too. Right? Like, I still do. I want to evangelize my family. But ultimately, if I wanted them to hear the word, I knew that they needed to be in a place where they could acknowledge the quality of my faith. And so, and that doesn't just come with me preaching at them, right? Like, I also, there was a time when I was like, I first learned the word, and I was like, wow, this word is so perfect, I know so much. I literally thought I knew everything. I was like, man, life is easy, I got the word. I know, not even low-key, it was like kind of obvious, like when I went back to, after study abroad, when I learned the word, I kind of looked down on my friends. I was like trying to like teach them things, like, trying to teach them about the Bible, and teach them about like what God wants in a way that's not like super direct, but like I had that, like I had this like arrogant atmosphere to me, and I got put in my place real quick because there were problems that even I would cause at that time, and I didn't have answers for them. and so people wouldn't hear me out, right? And so I mean, it's a real thing. You say I think in a joking way, but that's actually what some people go through too.
Yeah.
That's how I was, but it got to a point where I had to accept that, I can't just teach them the word. I can't just, especially since they have their own lives. All of my siblings are older than I am. They have their own lives. My sister's married. My brother, both of my brothers work a lot. One of my brothers works, I think he worked like 180 something hours in like a single bi-weekly pay period, which is crazy. He works so much. So I can't just like grab time for them, Can't just take their time to teach them the word. And, I don't want the only conversations that I have with them to be about the Bible or about the Bible studies or about when they can learn the Bible studies. I actually had a friend in college that we almost stopped being friends, actually two friends. We almost actually stopped being friends because that was how I approached it. And one of them, he told me, like, yeah, you said you want to do Bible studies, but it just feels kind of like one-sided. And, I'm too busy. I have to take care of all this other stuff. We're still good friends. Trey, you met him.
Yeah.
He came to our marriage celebration. So he was a freshman when I was a senior. And we didn't lose our friendship, and we didn't necessarily almost lose it, but you could tell that it wasn't a real relationship. It wasn't based off of like a genuine care and concern for one another. It was me just trying to teach him the Bible studies so he could realize the time period.
I lost a newcomer that way.
Yeah, right? So it's a thing, right? And that happened with another friend too. He also was like, bro, what's our friendship even? Like, I feel like you just talk about Bible studies, that's it. And so he actually stopped learning too. But it really wakes you up to the fact that it's not just about teaching the Bible studies. And that, especially with a family, like the relationship is so crucial. There was a revelation. I don't remember what language it originally was, if it was by a Japanese revelation receiver or a Korean one. I remember reading it in Japanese. But it basically said, like, family evangelism is like a spring drizzle. Like, your parent, it shouldn't be a pouring rain and soak them, but it's so light, so delicate, that before they even realize that they're drenched. Like, it's not like a quick, like, get in, preach and get out. It's over time, through that relationship, by loving, caring for them, praying for them, making stories with them, testifying little by little, and really valuing that relationship and that connection, naturally they'll see who you are. They'll see the life that you live, and that can move their hearts to the point that they may even ask you, hey, I realized over the years you've really grown up, or I see you value this, or you live in this way. What makes you want to do that? They could come with a question. They could come with admiration. They could come with just curiosity. They could just have a conversation, and they themselves could just see what you do and say, hey, I want to do that too. Whether they're older than you or younger than you, siblings or even parents.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions here is, what do you think about, and then them like presenting a dilemma or some kind of philosophical question, and they're just seeking my opinion or my thoughts because they know that the way that I think is different, or the way that I approach things is different. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when it comes to family evangelism, that's what's so important. If you have the relationship, that's a foundation, and you can build upon that. But if there's no relationship, it's like you're talking to a stranger that's just related by blood.
Yeah, it becomes very transactional. And I think, especially for those of us who were evangelized in campus years, right? Those are the years where, what is our mission? Diligently run. It's like you have no job, no bills. Your work is to run. You're on the campus, you're doing ministry. And I was doing that for 2 years. And so, I had like my whole presentation down, like how I would approach people and ask them. And, for me, I know that every region is different, and what works will be different, like in that sense. But, here in Georgia, we're in the Bible Belt. People are very, like, not Christian-centered, but, like, 9 out of 10 people, have some background with Christianity. Like, they were raised Christian and decided to go look on their own, or they're still Christian and very devout. But it's not strange for somebody to approach you and talk about the Bible. So for me, like, my method of evangelism is very direct. I will ask people questions straight out and be like, well, this and this, but how did this happen? And try to open their eyes to see that not everything is laid out and not everything is literal. And, we were able to connect a lot of lives that way. But I think in all of this, what we're talking about, the key element is management. And I think that each person, like, people have different roles that they really excel at. For me, it is absolutely that connection piece. I'm really good at, like, getting somebody's attention, getting them connected, and letting them feel like, oh, I want to know more about this. But that management piece, when we talk about family, when we talk about building a church that feels like a home, and when we talk about really making sure that lives go until the end, right? Staying on point for this year's theme, that management is so crucial. And, Son's approach with us too, like, he's not somebody who only says, do this, don't do this, but he really looks after our lives. I think everybody has stories that they can tell about the relationship with Sonsim where through the message, like, an answer was given for your life. Mm-hmm. Not just your spirit, but, like, really your physical life when you're at a crossroads and you're trying to decide, what do I do next? And Sonsim cares so much about what happens to each of us, right? Being used as heaven's body. And so, for us too, it's not to go out and preach the word recklessly. And I do think that, especially when we're, like, young and fiery and passionate, there can also come that level of recklessness where we get this, like, single-minded focus on, I have to be God's body and I have to preach the word. And it's like, that is not a bad heart to have, but doing it with wisdom, doing it with tact, doing it with subtlety and grace and dignity in a way that is attractive, in a way that people want to be like that. And we all have people in our lives that, like, there's people you want to be like, that you aspire to be, somewhat close to. And then there are people that are like, ugh. For example, your boss, right? Like, people usually feel one of two ways about their direct supervisor or their manager. And it's like, either this person is a leader, they pour into me, they really have faith that I can do this. And, I want to do my best because they're really, like, pouring into me. They're really investing in me. And then there's, like, the people that just kind of tear you down and give you instructions, and this is what you're supposed to do. And if you're not doing it, you're going to get written up. And I think in evangelism too, there's, like, kind of those two tracks of people where it's like, they really love you and nurture you. And it's not just about taking you out to eat, but they make sure that your needs are met, that the things you're going through in your life are going well, or if there's anything they can support you with. And then there's the people that are like, every phone call, every text is, okay, when's the next Bible study? We missed you last week at Bible study. When am I going to see you again? So I think, being well-rounded in that respect is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that doesn't necessarily come because somebody taught you. I think that's the difficulty in that, because I mean, if that could have been resolved because someone told me, hey, do it wisely, then so many problems when I was in college would have been resolved. And even like going into, like, my first few years in career, many problems could have been avoided. But it was through those failures and through those challenges, sometimes when I struggled and stumbled, that I learned, in a sense, the hard way. But I wish, honestly, that I had asked more people, or people that treated me that way. I wish I would have sat down and talked with them more, to not just to get information from them about how they do things necessarily, but to, like, slowly, in a sense, take on that mentality, kind of slowly soak in that mindset and try to embody that same approach. I think that would have helped me a lot when it came to, of course, not just evangelism, but just connecting with people in general, making sure that the relationships I had weren't just centered on when the Bible study was going to take place, but rather, like, in who I am, who that person is, and really caring for them, because it's easy to forget that, or to miss that part as you're looking ahead of that to them realizing the time period and them receiving the word and wanting to live as God's bride. That becomes, even though that's more in the distance, that becomes like the focal point, when really the relationship is that, it's the connector in a sense, that without a relationship, there's really, it's so difficult to get to that point. So.
Yeah. Man, this is so deep.
Yeah.
That's really good. I do remember there was a conversation I will remember with a very dear friend, a very close person to me in Providence. And I remember I got rebuked rather sharply because most of the times when we communicated, it was, asking for something or needing something. And, at the time, like, I literally was like looking at my phone because it was via text, and I was like shocked, like to my core. I was like, oh my gosh, like I had never really thought of it that way. But then when I reflected on it, I was like, oh, that really is true. And so I have to say, like, there's no manual on building relationships the right way. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of self-help books and, things like that. But I think the reality is, as human beings, we learn through experience. That's, part of life. And it's only because we've had the experiences that we have that we're able to share these stories with you all now. And that's likely something that somebody out there can relate to. And so a lot of times when we pray that the difficulties that we go through in our individual lives become stories and testimonies for those who come after us, because we know that we're not the only people who are going through these kind of challenges. So, I don't think that there's any place for calling somebody out or making somebody feel poorly about anything that has been done. I think that really it's that you learn from it and you grow through it. I mean, how many of us have lost newcomers because our relationship with them was purely transactional and about getting them to study the word, or, trying to prune too quickly. I have seen lives just, it's almost like watching them get thrown like straight into the fire when you tell them, oh, you have to cut this off. Oh, you have to fix this. And it's like, each person has their timing to realize. And, I'm guilty of this even in my family. Like, you really have to be careful about, just because if you dump that knowledge on somebody else, like, you put that burden of responsibility on them, and they may or may not be ready for it. And so that comes for new lives, that comes for family members, anybody in your life. Like, you guys know the Korean word nunchi? Having sense, like an awareness of being able to read the mood, being able to kind of understand the subtleties, what's going on under like the mat, in a sense. Nobody's saying anything overtly, but I do think that, in Providence, we really do have a responsibility to have that kind of sense towards people, to know when it is right and when it is not right. And a lot of that comes from relying on the Holy Spirit. We get very caught up in the word being preached and, us being accurate and conveying the message. But people also have a right timing, right? There's a whole song about that. Everything has a right timing. Take action. Yeah. Anyhow, all that to say, when we talk about cultivating these relationships, caring for people, managing lives, loving your family, having that like filial responsibility too. Sansom also talks about taking care of your families and that's important. Know that just because you came to this history earlier, that is a blessing. You become the lampstand for your family. And in that position, you also have the responsibility to take care of them well, with love, with compassion, and with respect. Like, your family is not less than you just because you know the word of the time period. And I think that that's really important too. Yeah.
Dropping real facts in this podcast.
Yeah, I hope you guys are receiving this all.
Yeah. And I mean, for those of you, I mean, I don't, maybe like rocked in your hearts, like, oh my gosh, like I was totally thinking like that, or oh, I was totally doing that. Like it's not an issue in that, each person learns and grows at their own pace, and if you haven't known something before, then once you know, that's an opportunity for you to then change. It's not something you should burden yourself with, but it's changing little by little. All of us who have been in this history, we all go through transformation. It's not something that happens in a week, a month, or even a year, not even just in 5 years, but it's throughout the course of your life, you change. God gave us our entire lifetimes to learn, to grow, to develop, and to make ourselves more perfect. And at times it may feel like, wow, man, my lifetime, that's so long. Like, do I really need that much time to make myself? And the answer is yes, you do. Because at each stage in your life, you'll grow in different ways. You'll have different responsibilities. And at each time, people will go through different things. And the weaknesses that they've had, they will realize them and polish them little by little. So I don't want anyone to get discouraged if they have been thinking of themselves as higher than their family because they know the word, or any of the things we've talked about today, but rather, take this as an opportunity to reevaluate. If that's how you've been seeing people around you or your family, then how can you adjust that? How can you pray? How can you change your actions so that, that things aren't communicated that way, or so that the result that you're really hoping for, which is to evangelize and save your family members or your friends, can be reached in a way that really does show them respect and love and that genuine care from your heart.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah, I kind of feel like that was the key of today's, topic. We talk about family, but fundamentally, that relationship is one that we want to cultivate with our brothers and sisters here in this history as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that Sonson wants us to have that heart of love towards people in our lives. I mean, that's why we had a message that was very pointedly about looking for the positives in others and, not standing as judge before someone in front of you. Everybody has their own story, and as brides, right, our place is to love, to lead with love. And for me, right, I know there are certainly ample times that I could have walked from this history, and because somebody at a critical moment reached out with love. Somebody said something that really touched my heart or made me feel like, I am cared for, I am valued. Those things, I mean, they keep people's faith alive. And, I joke with Aaron about this a lot, but, fundamentally, like, my commitment to this history is the word. The atmosphere, it definitely, like, there are bigger churches, there are different places that have more people to interact with and things like that. But ultimately, like, what can I do? What is my responsibility in this time and place? And just because I know that my rooting and my ground is in the word, does that mean that I should not put in the effort to create a better atmosphere for others who are still searching to make that deeper connection with the word? How do I help them to connect? Because really, that's what we are. We're a means to help people connect to heaven, right? And then beyond that, we should have positive relationships with each other. I mean, honestly, if I was coming from a different faith or a different background and coming in to observe a Providence church, I would say this is my call to action for everyone listening is, look at your church with the eyes of a newcomer, with the eyes of somebody who knows what it is to interact with people socially in the world. And just, for yourself, take note and see, what can I do to liven up the atmosphere? What can I do? It's not always about events. It's not. It really is about, can I go up to somebody and have a conversation with them about something that's happening in my life? Will they hear me out? Will they support me and encourage me with the word? Will they make me feel like, yes, that is a difficulty, that is a challenge. Will they meet me with that understanding of my situation and push me to do better, to improve? And I think when we can really make those meaningful relationships, naturally events will start to come. I think there's a lot of initiative to push for events and, ministry through sports and going out to eat and doing all kinds of activities. But once the activity is over, we all go back to our own lives. So again, it's creating actual community, actual relationships where I can call you up during the week and just kind of vent about my day at work or whatever it may be. Whatever level of relationship that you have with that person. I think all those things are really important for us to consider as pioneers of this history, that we are the ones who get to set and establish Providence culture, really. And it's going to vary from nation to nation. And that's something that Pastor Sky touched on too, that I really liked. But, how do we make a church culture that is fitting of where we are? Because we don't all, have one cultural background. And so how do we make it welcoming to those who are going to be coming here and attending, not just in the present, but in the future too, that it's a place that they want to come, a place that they feel happy to be.
Yeah, and I want to add on that. It's not exactly the same train of thought, but I'm just thankful for Pastor Guy's channel, because not just because he throws out a lot of good ideas, but because it's a platform where we can talk about things that aren't usually talked about.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about like other podcasts too, like Man Cave, Provipuff Girls, our podcast, obviously, right? And then even comedy with Chris Jansen. Like all of these media are ways that we can talk about things that may not come up, and start making a community. People feel like, oh, I can ask these questions, or, oh, people are going through the same thing that I'm going through, or, wow, I didn't know everyone else experienced that same difficulty, and they can feel understood, they can feel seen, heard, they feel like they have a place to share their feelings and emotions or their thoughts, and that is making a community, even if it's just online, so that we feel a more sincere connection. It's not like there are things buried and we're just talking while standing on top of them, right? It's really bringing things up to the surface and letting people think about them, letting people discuss them. Like, why is this the case? Not to criticize, but to really think about it and to look for ways that perhaps things can be changed for the better, or look for solutions to problems that people are facing, or for those who have the solutions to share them, right? It's a really amazing platform that we have here with all these different podcasts, to really, in a sense, start making that actual community, even in like a metaphysical space, like the internet. And I think that will help, because you'll begin to see and you'll hear from people who have the same thoughts, who have similar experiences. You can relate to them, and you can even reach out to them and connect with them, whether it's through the comments or privately. And you can begin to establish those sort of relationships and understand what it feels like to have genuine relationships in this history, especially if you haven't felt that. I think it's a really huge blessing, and I mean, I'm super happy to be a part of it. I think I can say for both of us that we're happy to have this podcast and to share our stories and to connect with all of you who are listening in a way that's sincere and genuine. I hope that you can feel that sincerity in the way that we speak as well.
Yay, this is all just one big Pastor Sky appreciation post. But yes, there's just so much content, and we really do enjoy listening to it almost daily, and it gives us a lot of food for thought and good topics of conversation. So I like that we kind of get a chance to respond from our perspective as a blessed couple. All right, kind of as we come to our closing remarks here, I will say we did get a question, and that was about what are we going to do in the future? What kind of content will we be producing? So we are open to feedback. I hope you guys know Aaron and I are very approachable people. You can message us online, find us on Facebook, just leave a comment here, anything, any means that you like. But we want this podcast also to be an open platform. We talked about way back in its birthing days, what we might do with the podcast. But absolutely, we are open to having other young couples speak. If anyone wants to come and interview us, or we can interview you and ask us questions in real time, we could do something fun like that. So, this is not just meant to be us kind of monologuing and, only our thoughts and ideas, but again, building that community and creating a space where many voices can be heard. We really want it to be something that is meaningful for people in Providence who are married, want to be married at some point in the future, are running faithfully with zeal and wondering what comes next for them in their lives. And I think, for us, we definitely have experience growing from campus into career and now into young blessed couples. So, we can kind of speak to any of those topics, those times in our lives. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please reach out and let us know. Leave us a like, leave us a comment. We really appreciate you all for sticking around and listening to us. This is our 6th episode, and it feels really good to be able to do this continuously.
Amen. Praise hands.
Yes, he's making the little praise hands. But I think that wraps it up for us this week.
Yes, we're so thankful that all of y'all listen to this podcast. Again, leave your comments, hit that smash that like button, subscribe, whatever you gotta do.
Yeah.
We are excited to see you again, I guess, on the next episode.
Yeah, bye guys.
Take care.